Your host, and today I'm joined by Taryn Voget, a coach, healer, and founder of Everyday Genius Institute. She's worked everywhere from Accenture to SpaceX, but what she's really known for is helping people clear away limiting beliefs and reconnect to their passion and genius. Taryn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this conversation.
I'm so pumped. Let's dive in. So, you started in the high powered corporate world of Accenture before building your own firm. What did those early years teach you about success and also about burnout?
Well, when you go into consulting at that level, you work on these really big global projects, or at least I did. And these are not 40-hour work weeks. These are 80-hour work weeks. And there's a lot of travel. And I think it works when you're young because you have that kind of energy. But what it taught me more than anything was number one, how to learn something really quickly because you walk onto a client site, you have no idea about the business, the industry, who these people are, what they do, how they do it, and you're expected to be an expert. And so I just developed a strategy to figure out how to learn a lot in a very short amount of time. The other thing that it taught me that is completely related to what I do today is taking really complex things and having to make them very simple, whether it's really complex global business processes or complex ways teams run and stripping away all the complexity to make something really simple. And simple and easy are not the same things. Sometimes making things simple is actually really hard. Oftentimes it's really hard. But I think those are probably the two biggest things I learned in that early experience. And then I went on to found my own consulting firm where I continued to do that kind of work. I just did it for my own self.
That's amazing. I worked at a big company too right out of college. I worked for Johnson and Johnson, not known for the same level of stress, but equally as global and behemoth. And I completely agree with you. I was there about 6 years. I learned so much about how companies work and the world works. And when I left, it was like, okay, I got my baseline. Now I can go on to my future career wherever that may take me. But it is interesting for just knowing where we have ended up, having had that baseline as a start, where so many people think of companies like Accenture as this high stress, high demand, very intense, known for highly intelligent people. And then it's sort of these like shorter durations that you're there because you can't take it that long. Like most people can't sustain that level for years and years and years.
It's hard. It's really intense. And I definitely hit a burnout point when I was about, I don't know, 32 maybe or 33, where I just thought I can't do this anymore. It's just too many hours. I haven't been to the dentist in 3 years 'cause I don't have time. I mean, it's like there's like real life that didn't happen for, I don't know, 10 or 12 years while I was doing that. You learn a ton and you get so much experience. I've been everywhere. I've worked with so many cool people, but it does take a toll.
Yeah. Okay, so now I know that you had a flash of inspiration while you were driving over the Golden Gate Bridge that changed everything. Take us back to that moment and what shifted in you?
This is such a cool story. So when I was leaving the consulting world, I had this thought that I just was tired of working on everyone else's projects. I wanted to do my own thing, my own company. And I had this list of criteria in my mind. I was like, I want to do something innovative and something no one's done before and something that really helps people. And I kept thinking about all these different ideas. And I had been taking quite a lot of courses on the weekends in psychology and human behavior because I just find it interesting. And I kept thinking, gosh, I could really use this to help people and to help them make transformations and help them understand themselves better. And I don't know, I just want to do something with all these elements in it. And every idea I had just never felt quite right. And then one day I was driving, it was a Saturday morning, and I was living in Sausalito in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. And I was driving to South San Francisco to coach in this psychology class. And was just driving over the bridge, not thinking really anything. And then all of a sudden, literally mid-span of the Golden Gate Bridge, this bolt of lightning hits my head and I see this like flash. And in a nanosecond, I saw the whole idea for what became the Everyday Genius Institute. I saw the name, I saw what I would do, how to do it, how to build it, how to market it. It was like so much information came in a split second flash of light download. And then the cool thing was I arrived to class like, oh my God, that was so cool. And I met this guy who was one of the top wine tasters in the world. who was a student in this class, and I thought, oh, this is my first everyday genius. And the idea for the show, or the company, was that I would take people that are really brilliant at what they do, deconstruct how they do it on a very subconscious level. Because when people get good at what they do, they really have no idea how they actually do it. It all happens really fast in their minds. And then take that strategy of how they do it and how they really think about it and package it up in a book and a DVD set. It was DVDs at the time, so that people could learn how to taste wine like a pro and really shortcut their learning curve. And I came out with 6 or 7 products that did that, whether it was wine tasting or communicating with kids or study strategies for students or marketing and copywriting. And it was a really intense 4 or 5 year period where I built all of this and created all these videos and products. And then I kind of hit a wall. But it was a beautiful time and a massively creative output where I learned a lot about how genius actually works.
I think that is such a beautiful story because it's just so unique. People always say, "Well, how do you get a good idea for a company? Where does it come from?" Do you just well, a lot of people just stumble across it, and for you, it literally came to you directly to your mind as you're driving across the Golden Gate Bridge, which, by the way, for our listeners, if you've never been to the Golden Gate Bridge, it is so iconic and just such a beautiful structure, especially as fog rolls over it. I live in San Francisco, so I'm totally biased, but it is gorgeous. And to have such a life-changing moment as you're driving over this beautiful bridge, it just makes it even more powerful in my mind. So,
I wish I could create those moments on demand. It helped me
right?
understand where ideas come from. You think they come from the mind. No, they are like channeled in, and they come to us when we're not thinking. I mean, I'm driving. I wasn't really thinking about anything. I was like on my way to this class. But that's why great ideas come to us in the shower or when we're driving or when we're out for a hike. Like we're not thinking about anything in particular because we think we come up with the ideas in our mind, but actually what we do is we relax enough to channel them in from someplace bigger than us. Yeah.
That's such an interesting concept. So, say a little bit more about that because you're right that people always say, "Oh, in the shower or at 3 in the morning, I woke up and had a dream and I had this great idea." And so you're right, it doesn't happen when we are under stress or have your brain filled with 17 other things, like gotta make a dentist appointment or take the kids here or take my dog to their vet appointment. Like it doesn't happen when we're in those moments. So is this one of the things that you discovered as you were studying these geniuses?
It is, and this discovery came somewhat recently where I built a Genius Lab, and the Genius Lab is a place for people that are really good at what they do come and get deconstructed and learn how they actually do it, and you kinda deconstruct the magic trick of what they do. And I had this incredible animal communicator in my Genius Lab, somebody that's really brilliant at talking with animals, and that's what she does. And it was in that session, and this is a while ago now, but I realized where all this information and ideas come from because when we were deconstructing her genius and she was walking me through how she does what she does, and by the way, we take a split second and we unpack it into all these steps. A big part of her step or her process was that she said, and by the way, this took a little while to tease out because she was really unaware of how she did this. But she said she imagined walking through a doorway into the void, and then from there, all this information would come to her. And when I realized that's how she did it, I started asking other people in my Genius Lab, well, where do you get ideas? Where do you get this information? How does it come to you? And it's all some version of I kind of go into this place where it's all available and I pull it through. And people talk about this all the time. They talk about, oh, I was in the flow and it came to me. Coldplay talks about writing, what's that, Sky Full of Stars, that song I love so much. They wrote it in 10 minutes. It just channeled through them. And athletes talk about being in the zone where time stops and the only outcome is that's possible is a win because they're so connected in and everything is clicking and they're just in the zone. We've all had these moments where we've been in flow, we've been in the zone, time stopped, we've channeled a great idea. And it's because we're connected into something bigger than us. And we all do this in our own ways. And from there, we pull something through us. We use our intent and our focus and our desire to pull something through us. And that's where ideas come from. You can't do that when you're really busy focusing on the doing. You're typing, you're doing emails, you're doing this, you're doing that. Even in brainstorming sessions that I often help clients with to come up with breakthrough ideas, all that is a chance to kind of open the aperture. The best ideas usually don't come in the breakthrough or the brainstorming session. They come the next morning when someone's in the shower and they've kind of thought about it, but you open the aperture for it. And so when you realize that ideas come from that place, you can start to build better strategies around how to get good ideas.
I think that's such a great point to bring up because it is so important to make time for these good ideas. And it doesn't have to be only for people who are looking to have some invention or start a new company or these great athletes who need to win. It really is for everybody, right? It really is for every single person on the
Oh,
whole planet.
if
Yeah.
you love baking, my sister's an amazing baker. I mean, she gets in the zone with her baking, and don't talk to her when she's there because she is focused and she is channeling all kinds of a dash of this and a bit of that. And if the temperature is off on this, I need to adjust it for that. I mean, she's in the zone. So you can be in that zone baking a muffin. It doesn't mean that you need to come up with the next brilliant $1 billion idea. Those are fun when that happens. But I think I like the idea of the everyday genius because so many of us are geniusing. People think genius is this big mystical thing that's way out there and it's not attainable for them, but that's actually not true. When you really get how genius works, you realize that whenever we're operating from our passion and our interest and our excitement or our curiosity, we are geniusing. And it may take a while for kind of the elements of genius to come together, but being in that zone or channeling stuff through is part of geniusing.
I love that. I love that you're calling it it's like a verb
It's
to
a verb.
genius.
I know. I'm gonna write a book
I love
basically,
that.
"Genius is a verb." That's
Love
my
it.
title because it is. People think genius is a noun. "Oh, he's a genius," or "She's a genius." And we only give those labels after someone's been at something for decades and they've kind of brought a lot of elements together that look like genius, but were they a genius when they first started their journey, or were they only a genius when you recognized it much later? And what happens to the Van Goghs of the world that were never recognized in their time for being a genius, but after they died? So the world is a terrible judge of genius. So you can't rely on somebody deciding what's genius or not. Like I think Ed Sheeran is a total genius. A lot of people don't like his music and they don't think he's a genius at all. So genius is very subjective in terms of people evaluating what it is or isn't. And it often, for the really big stuff, doesn't even happen in a singular lifetime. So,
Mhm,
how can you develop your gifts, your abilities, and create something really brilliant, whether it's the perfect muffin or a $1 billion invention? I mean, to me, they're equal levels of genius because both take the same skills and elements and action to do both.
mhm. I totally agree. I wanna shift a little bit here to talk about another thread of your life because I think this is an important component. So you actually went through what you call shaman school. Tell us about that experience. What was it like, and how did it change the way that you see healing and human potential?
When I was starting Everyday Genius Institute 15 years ago, I had people in my genius lab and I thought, this is kind of laborious how I'm doing this. There's got to be a better way. And super synchronistically, friends of mine had stayed with me and given me this $300 gift certificate to a local spa. And it was a fancy spa. And I thought, $300, that's so generous. And I'm looking through the spa brochure and, massages, facials, all the things. But at the end, there was this option to do a shamanic destiny retrieval and soul retrieval. I had no idea what that was, but I thought, man, I can get a massage anytime. But a destiny retrieval and a soul retrieval, I need that. And it was $305. And I would have probably never spent the money on that on my own, but I had this gift certificate and I thought, oh, I just have to spend $5 for this. Cool. So I go meet Shaman John, who I've come to become good, quite friends with. And he really blew my mind open in terms of what's possible intuitively and from a healing standpoint. And he really encouraged me during this time to go to shaman school. He said, Taryn, I just think you'd really like it. And I was like, I don't want to be a healer. Like, that's not what I'm doing here. But I would like to go to expand my intuition and be much more intuitive because I feel like I could then deconstruct people's genius better and faster. So I end up going to the first class of it's actually called Healing the Light Body, and it's through the Four Winds Society. They've since changed the program, but that's what it was at the time. And I thought I'll just go to the first one and just see. Well, I get there and the very first day you do basically like the healing 101 on somebody. And I remember because you kind of put your hands under their head and it's like this whole thing you do. I remember doing it and time stopped and I thought, oh, whoa, this is interesting. I feel like I've done this 10,000 lifetimes. It was the weirdest experience where I thought, ooh, I've done this before. And I went through the rest of the program. It was 2 years, and it wasn't so much a learning as it was a remembering, and it really activated in me this part of me that has been or knows how to help people with healing and transformation. And you walk this really magical journey when you go through that kind of a program. And I definitely opened up my intuition. It's taken me many years, even since then, to really get it to where it's good now. And I feel like it's something I'm always working on, because intuition is like anything, it's a skill. We all have it. How much are you using it, trusting it, exercising it? And so I kind of added that into my toolkit, not just in the Genius Lab to help understand how people do what they do, because I can often see in their brain how they're doing it before they can. So that's kind of where the intuition came in. And so it makes my deconstruction process faster. But it's also been really helpful in helping people step onto their path that excites them, brings them joy, lights them up. Because so much of the reason why we don't do that is because we hold ourselves back from limiting beliefs or limiting ideas or these constructs of how our life should look. And so we never really access that part of us that wants to come online, that's the most excited, passionate part of us, because there's layers in the way. And so I've been able to use these healing gifts to help people very quickly release that and step onto a path that is more joyful for them.
That's incredible. I just so love and appreciate that you've brought your intuitive spiritual work into some very logical linear environments, right? Like the SpaceX conference room. And how did that merging of worlds happen for you, and bringing it into, as you said, helping the geniuses deconstruct what's happening in their mind, and other coaching that you're doing? How did that kind of uh, collaboration of two worlds work out?
Well, what I've come to realize is genius and spirituality are really one and the same. And you think they're two disciplines that don't go together, but they actually are exactly together. Because when you are operating from your passion and your joy, that is the highest spiritual expression of your soul. And so that's where genius lives. And genius is about connecting into bigger things and channeling ideas and being divinely inspired and getting great strategy, which is kind of the human part of us that strives for mastery. And so when these elements come together in genius, it's really like you're on your ultimate spiritual path. And we can talk more about that because there's kind of elements to that. But when I got called to come in to do executive coaching at SpaceX, it really was one of the first times I had to bring everything I knew together under one roof and figure out how to create really powerful transformation for these executives in a conference room where people would like even interrupt you because it's busy there. And I thought, well, this is really cool. I'm working with rocket scientists. I mean, the people that work at SpaceX, when I say brilliant, I mean, it's like a genius factory there. Everyone's really operating on all cylinders, and there's a lot of latitude for people to really express their brilliance fully. It's a really cool environment that way. And yet everyone's human, and there's always breakthroughs to get to the next level and the next level. And so I had to tweak how they taught us at shaman school to create a transformation, which is very much a ceremony. You sort of sit someone in a ceremony and you kind of go through this healing ceremony. Um, and you might imagine it was kind of shamanic, with like rattles and rocks and feathers and like all this stuff, which is like a beautiful ceremony. But I can't bring that into a conference room. So I had to figure out, okay, what are the actual elements that are going on here? And how can I take those elements and do it in a way that's much more conversational, that creates just as deep of a change, but in a very kind of relaxed conversational way. So I did kind of crack that code.
That's incredible. And I feel like I have to ask, because I would be remiss if I didn't. What have you learned from all of these geniuses that you have worked with? Like how do they become genius? And is it just doing what you're passionate about? Can anybody become a genius? Like, what are some of your key takeaways that you've learned over the years?
Before I get into how genius works, there's just a quick little note of like, how do you even define genius? Like, how do you know if you're a genius? And you say all these geniuses, like to me, genius is an energy, it's a frequency. And so when I say someone's a genius, it's because they're operating at a certain frequency or a certain energy. And if you think about that, it's like sadness is like an energy or happiness is an energy. Genius is a very specific frequency and energy that I feel inside of people. And so when I say, oh, they're a genius, it's because they've activated that energy within them and I can feel it. And from that, really cool work often comes out. And to activate that energy requires kind of three things coming together. And number one, it's you're doing something that you're passionate about. That will activate genius level frequency. But it's not just doing something you're passionate about, it's doing something you're passionate about with focus over time. Because that's where mastery comes. It's the continuous improvement, it's the getting better. And there's a whole lot that goes into what I call that strategy element, like how you do it. that I've kind of noticed patterns inside people. They all do these sort of 5 patterns, in unique ways, but they're all present in when someone gets good at something. So passion gives you the fuel to get better. That path to mastery has all these sort of strategy elements to it. And then the third element we already talked about, which is you're channeling, you're bringing something through you, whether you're in a flow state, you're having a Golden Gate Bridge moment, you or a shower moment, or you're in the zone, or however you do it. But when passion plus strategy plus channeling come together, and they come together often enough, that is the frequency of genius. And when someone sits there in that frequency enough, and they've activated it, the outer world will often recognize it for what it is, which is brilliant perfection comes through. And it can be a parent talking to a child. It can be somebody baking a blueberry muffin. It can be an Elon Musk channeling incredible ideas for humanity through. Like it doesn't necessarily matter how big it is. It's the same elements coming together in all these contexts.
I really appreciate the way that you're explaining this because this, in my mind, this, and I know this is what you do, but even that word genius is a limiting belief, right? That's the message I'm receiving. That when I was a kid and still today, I hear, oh, that person's a genius. That's telling me this person is so far beyond me. I could never attain their level of intelligence. They've just been to so much school, like they're so academically gifted. I will never be at that level. Like that's what I think when I hear somebody is a genius. Like they're just so beyond everybody else. But I can appreciate the way that you're breaking it down and you're saying it that has nothing to do with it. It's actually that they're at a certain frequency. And part of that is doing what you love and what you're passionate about. And as you said with your sister, that's something that all of us can do, right? We can all find what we are truly passionate about and work towards that. I mean, I especially love that because you're reminding me of things in my life that I have just become obsessed with, like a healthy obsession, right? Whether it's pet projects or, knitting a fanny pack for my 7-year-old because that's something that needs to happen. Whatever it is, I get like obsessed with these things. I do like a ton of research and then like you said, you're just so in the zone where you're like your hands just do things you don't even know. And that's for me is like a mini genius moment, I would think.
And they're all around us. And that's why I really love everyday genius. Maybe just because I'm looking for it, I see everyday genius literally every day. It's the waiter at the restaurant that just has flawless service. It's the instructor on the pickleball court that just has the perfect way of explaining things that's just like, oh God, that locked in. Little moments of genius happen all the time. Just because someone doesn't have a Wikipedia page doesn't mean they're not geniusing. On the point of passion, and this is why when you see people that do have Wikipedia pages, how they get them is because they're operating on their passion so much that it raises their energy, it raises their frequency. When you raise your energy and your frequency, you're able to access bigger and better ideas from that place. And this is where genius and spirituality come together. You're accessing a higher vibrational space, which gives you access to more cool things in the quantum field. It also creates greater synchronicities. So when you see people that have these incredible careers or this incredible brilliance, like a Taylor Swift, she's genius at doing her thing. I mean, she's genius at doing what she loves and getting better at it and finding creative ways to do it. And all of that brings her more and more opportunity and better ideas and better synchronicities and connections to where she is arguably the most successful pop star of all time. And so when we do what we love, it opens up so many great things on our journey. And again, we all don't need to be Taylor Swift. A lot of people, that's just not their path. And yet, can we be great at something that we just love and get better at it and find new ways of doing it and bring disciplines together that maybe haven't gone together before? And this is where I love, people always say, oh, pick one thing and do it. Well, while yes, that's true about having focus over time on something, the best stuff comes when you combine things that don't often go together.
That's such a good tip. I love that. All right. Well, we are winding down now. I can't believe our time is coming to a close. Taryn, you've been incredible. So, our last question for you is if someone listening now feels stuck in a life that doesn't light them up, but they're terrified to let go of the old rules, what's the very first belief that they need to shatter to begin living their genius?
The belief I see in a lot of us, and I even put myself in this category, is feeling like or having the belief that life won't support me doing what I love. And there's a lot of cultural stuff around this. So artists don't make money, writers don't make money. And so and yet you can find counterexamples to all of that. I think for many of us the most limiting belief we have is that we can't be supported doing what we love. And I would say open up the aperture of what support is. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to sell your thing to be supported. Money can come and abundance can come in so many crazy and unexpected ways that can provide support. Just to give you an example on that, my mother is a very genius gardener. I would put her in the category of genius gardeners. She has never actually had a paycheck, but she married someone that supported her passion. And so she is supported. It's just not making money doing what she loves. And that's just one tiny example of the many, many ways that we can be supported in the universe doing what we love. And it may come from selling our thing and it may not. But I would say, number one, really think through, is my limiting belief that I can't be supported? And if so, is that true? And secondly, how can I open up my aperture of what support could look like? And then the third thing is, if I need to make a pivot from what I don't love to what I do love, how can I make this pivot in a way where I still feel okay? Because some people jump off the cliff. That tends to be my style, but other people do a slow transition, and that's okay too. It's getting to a place where you can trust that you'll be supported. And if that takes a while, that takes a while. If you want to jump off the cliff, jump off the cliff. I mean, everyone's on their own journey with it, but that would be what I would say to listeners.
Mm. That's such good advice. I so appreciate that. And for listeners out there who are thinking of jumping off the proverbial cliff, go for it. Thank you so much, Taryn, for sharing your story and your wisdom with us today. And to all our free spirits listening, if you're ready to keep exploring unconventional paths and uncovering your own genius, head on over to flyingupstreampodcast.com for more episodes and resources. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and of course, keep flying upstream.